Holy cow, the market is red. Bitcoin is falling. We went down about $5,600 or so just from last night. Overnight, I woke up. I didn't even sleep that long, and we fell down to almost $90,000. Altcoins are getting slaughtered. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about what you can do right now to help save some of your trades. We can also look at what Tom Lee just said about Bitcoin and something that Trump announced today in regard to Bitcoin. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. If you want to trade crypto, this is a great time to be trading. There's a link to Blofin and a link to BTCC underneath the video. You can get set up in just a few minutes. You don't have to KYC. You don't need a VPN. And you can get some pretty sweet deposit bonuses. Also, if you want to sign up for CoinW, you can get set up there in just a few minutes as well. And you can have professional traders that help you navigate these times because they have a Telegram group as well that you get access to if you start trading on the platform through my link. Now, if trading's not right for you, I just created this Patreon. We just have a couple members coming through, but you can join the new My Financial Friend Patreon. We're going to be answering questions in there for people that are worried during this market or have questions. We're posting exclusive videos, and we'll be in the chats helping you navigate the world of crypto. Maybe you're worried about this dip. Maybe you're wanting to take advantage of this dip, right? We can talk about all that in the Patreon. I'll leave a link to this as well. Joe is helping me in this Patreon, a buddy of mine who's been in the crypto industry for 10 plus years. He's been investing. You can check out his channel too. He's going to post, I think, this week. There's a link to that as well underneath the video. Now, the market's just getting slaughtered. We have $456 million of liquidations, and Jim Cramer just was talking about how bad the open was, so maybe we'll be saved, right? But 456 million of liquidations in the last 24 hours on the long side, which obviously is forcing down the market. The majority of this is coming from Bitcoin and Ethereum. That jobs report last week sent the market down. This is the good jobs report that said the economy was really strong. People are worried about this because they think that the Fed won't have to cut rates as much. I think that there's some market manipulation going on right now. I think there's some market makers and whales that are trying to hunt for $90,000 on Bitcoin. Why is that? Because it's a key psychological level. There are a lot of people that put stop losses around $90,000. But Bitcoin's actually holding up fairly well versus the rest of the market. You can see Bitcoin dominance going up from 57.9 to 58.4% here today, making a bit of a rally. If we continue to see downside, right, how far could we go? Well, we've actually gone further than any WEEX since, early to mid-November? Yeah, mid-November. So we're a little bit further down, but we're still holding that $90,000 mark. If we break below it, look for maybe the 100-day moving average, which is right around $88,000. Look for that to hold, hopefully. If not, it's hard to tell where we're going to go because we haven't seen any kind of resistance or support or anything. We between 74,000 and 85,000. We just wicked straight up essentially. So it'll be fascinating to watch what happens here. I've said this though for a week or so, that I think there's market manipulation happening right now ahead of some of the most bullish moments in crypto history. You can see Ash Crypto says U.S. President Trump will form a crypto advisory council of 24 leaders to draft legislation, build a Bitcoin reserve, and promote regulatory clarity. Golden bull run of 2025 is coming. Okay, so it seems like there's a pretty good likelihood that Trump is going to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, possibly day one, which is 7 days from now. This is kind of the last second, the last minute for market manipulators to force down the market, especially if Trump does make Bitcoin strategic reserve. Like this is where they have to make a final stand to try to push down the market, liquidate people, and then we can continue rallying. This is a nice pullback as well. We've seen about a 16% pullback. We went down to about a 17% pullback, but keep in mind, this isn't even technically a crash. Like it's right about a crash crash being 20% drop, corrections are 10% drops. Altcoins are going down much further. Some altcoins are down 40, 50%. One thing that you can do, to be clear, if you're leverage trading, and then we'll get to Tom Lee in a second. If you're leverage trading, you can do something to kind of help save your positions. You can add margin. So, for example, in these positions, right? I've held some of these for a very long time. Like Bitcoin, my average price was 55,000. But Solana, it's down a little bit. It's down 15%. These are low leverage longs, so this is what I like to do when we've seen big pullbacks. I like to open these low leverage longs, and then we ride up the next bull trend, or we ride up the next the next move up, and then we're up 100, 200%, something like that, something safe. But sometimes you open up new positions, or they eventually come down and you're in the red. Maybe I was down like negative 80%. I'm not too worried about this because it's low leverage. It's 3x. We'd have to go down to $124 for me to get liquidated. But let's say you were down like 60, 70, 80% and you were more aggressive. How can you save this? Well, on most platforms, you can go over to your margin and hit the little plus button, and you can actually add margin. So let's say you have another, a couple $100 sitting in your account. I have $50 here. You can see my liquidation price is 124.06 right now. But if I add this, it would take my liquidation price to 123.36, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a nice little drop if you need to get below a key psychological zone. And I'm only looking at adding like about 1% margin to this, right? So it's not going to lower my my liquidation price by 20%. But you can see if you had more capital, you could lower these prices. And if you do think we're going back up, right? If you think we're going back up to new all-time highs, it's probably a good thing to do. If you think we're going to continue dumping down, then there's not really a point. I don't want to say there's not a point, but if you think we're going into a bear market, like you probably don't want to be adding margin right now. But I'm still very bullish on this market. So if you're at a point where you're getting close to liquidation, you can add a little bit of margin. Just know that obviously you're dumping more money into the same trade. Now, let's move over to Tom Lee. What did he just say about Bitcoin? Let me play this for you.
The Dow tumbled nearly 700 points on Friday's strong jobs report, boosted the case for the Fed to hit the pause on a January rate cut. Joining us now is Tom Lee, Fundstrat Capital CIO, head of research. He's a CNBC contributor. And I referenced you earlier, Tom, because I do remember you sort of being positive overall about the market and for this year, but with some trepidation near term. And most of your calls recently have been less on the strength of the economy and more on inflation data. And some of your, like when you were calling things, S&P is going to end the week, 8% higher because of inflation or something. So we got inflation this week. There are concerns. I think I tie a lot of the weakness in the market to that. Are these important numbers?
It's important because, as you know, we've been correcting now for almost a month, right? 23 trading days. And this Wednesday is an important day because it is a possible turning point for markets. And I would like to see CPI come in below, 0.25 or so. And I think that would give that jolt of confidence for markets on top of, I think, earnings, which is going to be a positive catalyst. But for investors in the near term, I think they got to ride out the volatility because I think yields here have made people nervous. Not necessarily deteriorated the long-term outlook, but near term.
Are they smart, the yields, or are they not giving us a correct signal? Because you sound really like you're not sure.
Let me pause just for a second. We have a very prominent person in crypto saying that the DOJ is dumping Bitcoin. And then we also have news from Michael Saylor. So stay through to the end. We'll look at the reacceleration in MicroStrategy's Bitcoin purchases.
Sure about the inflation data this week?
I'll have a better sense over the next couple of days as we sort of finalize what our expectations are. But the only hesitation we have is that the hurricanes last year have muddled some of the inflation quality because, for instance, hotel reservations would go up because of these natural disasters, and it's going to happen now with the LA fires, and I think it's going to muddle used car prices as well because you have to replace all these used cars.
So you think if they weren't muddled, that inflation isn't that big of a concern. And when you say a turning point in the markets, if we've been down for a month, turning point doesn't mean further weakness. You think we might be making a bottom this week?
Yes, our technician Mark Newton thinks 5,700 might be the turning point. It could happen Wednesday, so maybe 2% down from here, but that's really where the market could make a stand. I think if we could lift the cloud of some of this muddling, in fact, Waller last week even said most of the inflation last year was about imputed prices, meaning the real price of inflation was actually much lower. I think that is still the case. Inflation is weaker when you look at housing, et cetera. So once we can get through that noise. But investors, I think, shouldn't be too glum. I think earnings season is going to be something that really solidifies. Look, if S&P earnings growth is 10%, X energy and revenue growth 5%, that's a really good reason to be owning equities.
Is the Fed less significant right now with their rate cut? I don't care whether they, that's not what I base what the market's going to do on. Are people still just dying for another couple of cuts, or I think we've been lucky to have gotten what we've already gotten. We got to live with that and just try and hope inflation doesn't come back.
I agree with you. I think the best case this year would be the Fed doing one cut because the economy is strong enough and they're still dovish, meaning they're going to make their way to neutral. But if they push those rate cuts into 2026, 2027, that's a longer runway to support markets. Part of, I think, the hesitation for stocks right now is we have a new administration starting.
What? Oh, that's right.
Yes. And, we've essentially reversed that rally from November because we rallied 7% over 23 trading days. Mm-hmm. And now we've given up 5% and another 2% would just round trip us back to November.
23 trading days.
Do you think stocks look expensive here or not? I mean, we've come back down, as you mentioned, but people keep talking about the PE ratio and how it's historically at the high end of things. Do you think it's expensive, or do you think we have the earnings power to support all of that?
To me, the 10-year, even if it gets to 5%, is a 20 PE multiple on a 10-year bond. Mm-hmm. The median PE on the S&P is 17 times. So I think stocks are giving you much better value than a bond right now. And 5% is probably not the level that yields stay at. It's probably a deflection point.
Tom, what is the movement in Bitcoin say to you? So we're at 91,000. What is that? What is that a signal or a sign of anything in this sort of analysis?
Stupid Fed.
Yeah.
It's not cutting.
Yeah, Bitcoin's down roughly 15% from its highs, which for a hyper-volatile asset is a pretty normal correction. And it is slightly following global liquidity, but we're pretty early in this halving cycle. So to me, I think Bitcoin in the near term, again, our technician thinks 70,000 is where we can sort of make a stand. Means you're getting a big opportunity because I think Bitcoin's going to be one of the best performing assets.
So hold on, but you still think it goes all the way down to 70,000, or you think that's the floor, in which case you would still buy at this price?
Yeah, so there's Fibonacci's. So one level would be 70.
Let's say that again.
There's retracement levels. So
Yes.
You pull back from where you rallied.
Right.
So 70 is one level. It could go to as low as the 50s.
Uh-huh.
But that's, again, not a new level. It's just where it touches before it begins to rally.
Okay, let me ask you a different question. For those folks who are watching who are not in Bitcoin or are thinking about buying Bitcoin at these prices, are you saying that this is a fair and good price to get in, or are you saying wait because you think it's going farther down?
Bitcoin is something you need to be long-term focused. I don't think anyone's going to lose money buying here at 90. If they're trying to time this, maybe they'll get lucky and it goes to 70. But to me, Bitcoin could be significantly higher this year, maybe 200, 250. So I think 90 is still a good entry point.
So Tom Lee saying that people will not be pissed off if they buy here because he thinks we're going a lot higher. Let me know your thoughts on that underneath the video. Now, let's take a look at this. David Bailey says, why is the DOJ dumping America's Bitcoin? Basically saying that is the reason that we're falling down right now. And Eric says, LOL, they aren't. He says, my brother in Christ, do you really think they're going to broadcast their trade so that you can front run them? Think with your mind. Okay, so David Bailey leads the Bitcoin conference, or was the creator of the Bitcoin conference and Bitcoin magazine. Very prominent figure in crypto right now. I don't think the DOJ is dumping their Bitcoin. I could be wrong. I know some people are saying, well, you can see it on chain. Other people are saying you can't see it on chain. I don't think they're dumping their Bitcoin. I think it's market manipulators that maybe are trying to force that narrative. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see when Trump comes in if he kind of sheds a light on what they were doing. You can see MicroStrategy purchased an additional 2,530 Bitcoin for $243 million at about 96,000 per coin and achieved a yield of 0.32% year to date. As of 1/12/25, we hodl 450,000 Bitcoin. Okay. They just reaccelerated growth. They reaccelerated their Bitcoin purchases. So they went from 5,200 to 2,100 to 1,000. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to continue to see smaller and smaller Bitcoin purchases. But they came in with the best purchase, the most Bitcoin, in 3 weeks. So maybe a reacceleration. This is where people start to get excited. If they think, well, if we're seeing 2,500, we could get back up to 5,200 next week, and then 15,000, then 21,000, and we could see a reacceleration. I do think that MicroStrategy is going to be buying more in the future, but is dependent on the market a bit. It's dependent on their multiple and how much debt they can get, how many shares they can issue, just based on volumes. So it'll be fascinating to watch, but I like this reacceleration. I think this is a good sign. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Again, if you want to trade crypto, you can see we're already bouncing a bit. If you want to trade crypto, there's a link to Blofin and BTCC and CoinW. These are the times that I love to put in trades. Like right when the market is pico bearish, this is where you make good money on the reversals. Let me know your thoughts though. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.